Are you like me? Do you like news? Kind of a news junkie. Always got to know what's going on in the news and getting information from all kinds of sources, etc. Except that you live in Australia. Yeah, things just got a lot more difficult for you, as everybody who lives in Australia already knows. They will no longer be able to get news from social media. That's right. Essentially, you're not going to be able to get news articles or anything like that on social media because Rupert Murdoch decided he wanted too much money. Facebook said Wednesday that Australian users and publishers will not be able to post news content to its social network after the government's threatened to force it to pay publishers. The publisher said, if you want to share our articles on social media, you have to pay us. And by publishers, we mean Rupert Murdoch. I don't think I have to tell any Australian who Rupert Murdoch is. This means we'll not be able to view or share Australian or international news to users around the world and be unable to access Australian news content through Facebook if you live in Australia. That's right. You're on a news blackout from social media, particularly Facebook. Just thinking about that. Now, basically, they wanted Facebook to give money to Rupert Murdoch, and they said no. However, interestingly, Google took the opposite approach. They decided that they actually were going to pay that money to Rupert Murdoch. They announced that they would pay publishers, including, News Corp, for the ability to feature their content on its dedicated news product, Google News Showcase. You know, when you Google search something and then there's that category news? Yeah, basically Google now has to pay publishers to be able to put that there when the whole point of it is to drive traffic to their news articles. Making Google pay for a service that's actually beneficial. It's almost like they should actually be paying Google to send traffic there. But, I digress. See, now there's something, obviously, other than the absurdity of this, there's something very interesting. At least one union in Australia has come up with essentially a problem where they're being blocked, even though they're not a news site. It's a site that belongs to a union in the country. So it's very interesting that they would take advantage of this situation to suddenly censor a union. Maybe this is a one-off thing, an accident that accidentally got blocked. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe this has happened to a lot of unions in the country. I don't really know. I don't have Australian internet, thankfully. So that's a little bit concerning right there, that all of a sudden, this union gets taken off of social media, even though, they have a right to organize and promote, the usual stuff. And this always brings us back to the idea that social media should be a public utility. It's not something that private companies should be able to arbitrarily censor whenever they want because it's their property. Now, it's really interesting to watch right-wingers say this. Oh, it should be a public utility where the government pays for it, when you basically say the government shouldn't own anything or do anything for you, and that this private property is a sacred right, and that you're advocating taking private property away from people when you believe that you shouldn't be able to tell people what to do with their private property. Just really rather ironic that it's private property is all right up until, you don't like what it does, then all of a sudden they shouldn't have that right anymore. Rather than the whole philosophical materialist argument as to why private property shouldn't exist to begin with. But basically, this is all happening because Rupert Murdoch has too much power in the media. Look at everything this guy has said. People were warning that this was going to happen. There was going to be a removal of news content from social media if Rupert Murdoch didn't get all the money that he wanted. And he's abusing his position, his power within society in order to do just that. And that's what a horribly unethical little man he actually is. And this demonstrates, again, the power that the rich have, to where they are now limiting your ability to access information. Important information is news. It's 99.9% bourgeois news, but at least knowing what's happening is really important, and he's doing that. So it's amazing, the evil Soviet Union would do this, and if we went socialist, it would be you can't read and stuff like that, when it's happening right here under capitalism. But I mean, like, don't worry. I'm sure that people who defend capitalism will come up with some kind of justification. Oh, it's corporate. It's corporate capitalism. It's crony capitalism. It's not real capitalism. Some kind of nonsense like that. But what do we really have? We have the market and the economic actors in the market demonstrating their freedom of choice. And they're being blocked access to information. Information is not more abundant because of the free market. It's less because of the free market. I mean, that's probably, one of the contradictions of capitalism. The freer the markets, the freer people are not, the greater the mobility of capital, the worse it is for labor. And capital needs labor. It's all tied up into that big set of contradictions that makes up capitalism. So what's really important here is watching the free market, watching private property deliberately undermine the ability of people to access information. And that couldn't be a better symbol for capitalism in general. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.